Cheers to adulting.
Hi, everybody.
It's been a long time
Since I've seen you, my friend.
We've been on a hiatus because life. Yeah. So welcome back. I'm Ashley Barajas,
And I am Abby Rosemarin.
and we are and we are joined. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Carley.
And this is
Cheers to adulting.
Clink.
Clink. And we are drinking, I already forgot the name of it. It's called a gin fizz, Ramos gin fizz. We wanted to try and pick something thematic to the episode content. We're going to mostly talk about ADHD and adulting, which I think really goes hand in hand of like removing the stigma when it comes to adulting, whether you are neurodivergent or you're not. And so I Googled like complicated drinks to make. So it made me think about like hyper focusing and what's something complicated and what's something very niche that only an ADHD person would get into and then not be into it like a week later.
Like, hey, remember that time you got really into bartending and mixology for like 3 weeks?
Yeah. And then you just have all of this stuff that you don't use.
Whoops.
Yeah. So we got a gin fizz.
Yeah.
It kind of sounds gross and it looks a little gross because it's a little curdled.
It looks good from here.
That's
Yeah.
pretty
And
good.
It looks good. It tastes good. And really, that's what matters.
Yeah. I put a little bit too much of the orange flower, whatever water, but that's all right. I'm into it.
It's okay. It works.
So, we like to start the episode off by talking about any adulting that we did, either celebrate something adulting that we did, even if it's small, or we also really welcome a moment to talk about these are things that I should have done and I didn't do. And that's okay. Because life. And yeah. So, I guess I'll start off. I'll just start off with a lot of adulting I haven't done because life. I work besides my full-time job. I have a second part-time job because I'm a masochist. And so I'm not home a lot. And so at one point I decided that I was going to reorganize my guest bedroom. And my way to do things like that is to remove everything from everywhere and to put it in a big pile. So I see it. And now I'm seeing that pile and I'm forced to look at it. And so I'm forced to do something about it. That pile's been there for 2 weeks. Or rather, it looks like I'm moving. It looks like a disaster. And I'm just like, I'm getting to it. I even went out and bought like special Tupperware organizing containers and all these different ways that I'm going to organize. It's going to be like great. It's sitting there for like 2 weeks, but that's okay. I'm going to get to it. I have the things to do it. And I have Abby here. Abby is my token ADHD buddy. And I don't know how I would get done anything if I didn't have her to come over at least once a week. Usually it's to do laundry and she just sits there and I feed her and give her alcohol and we watch a show and I do laundry and it's great.
Yeah, it is a wonderful arrangement for me. Like, yes, please feed me, booze me, give me a TV show, and I will gladly hang out with you while you fold your laundry.
She's a good ADHD buddy.
Yay. Now, I am going to start off with what's going to sound like the ultimate adulting, but then I'm going to quickly switch tracks and be like, no, I'm actually not as adulty as this is going to make it sound. But this morning, I officially applied to graduate school.
Mazel tov.
Thank you. I ideally, if I get in, and I'm, knock on wood here. Oh, thank you. I will be getting my master's in clinical mental health counseling.
Yay!
So, And I have been playing around with that for a bit. And actually, I think both of you have witnessed me do the whole like, well, maybe I'll get my master's in psych, but like, I'm not going to do like the therapy thing because I could never be a therapist. But
which is what kept me from doing it. I'm still on the fence.
I think you'd be a good therapist too.
I feel like my empathy has gone down a lot, or I've been able to better manage my empathy to be able to take a step back. And yeah.
And that's, I think, a huge aspect. So yeah, I officially did that, including all the things like requesting. I'm very eloquent, as people can see. I don't take multiple tries to make my tiki-talkies at all. But I did my request for transcripts, the whole 9 years, everything's been squared away, and that feels really awesome. I won't know until bare minimum November, because part of the application process is a round of interviews. The next time they're doing the interviews is November. So, which is okay. I was not planning to start school until the spring anyways. So that felt really wonderful, but I will say that is super misleading. If anybody's like listening or watching this and going, oh wow, she's so adulty, she applied to grad school. That is the one shining star in the dumpster fire that is my life right now.
It's like, don't look at my bedroom.
Yeah, it is, I am flying by the seat of my pants right now. I'm trying my best not to really
You have pants?
Flying by the seat of these shorts. There we go. I've been trying my best not to talk too much about my personal life, because I used to talk a lot about it, especially on TikTok, and that backfired on me. But I will say, yeah, there's been a lot of stuff going on. Some that's been really wonderful, some that has been absolutely horrendous. And as a result, I really am just treading water and trying to keep my head above that water. But again, one of the things about adulting is recognizing that sometimes the most adulty thing you can do is just keep your head above water and recognize that takes a lot of work. So yeah, that is my adulting. Carley, would you like to give us any adulty thing that did or didn't happen?
Yeah. Well, first of all, that's so cool about your schooling, because it's the degree that I'm doing, at least a similar one. So that's really, really cool. Congratulations. And also, applying to grad school is terrible. It sucks. It's very hard. There's a lot of like moving pieces and paperwork and different things that you have to get together. So like I doubt, like, good for you. Good job. Yeah, the adulting thing that I managed to do this week. So I'm working as a research assistant at the research portion of a mental health hospital. So I work on sleep studies, and we do the thing where we put all the electrodes all over people's heads. So I've been learning how to apply electrodes to people. And then this last training that I just had, I did it perfectly, and I didn't have to like redo any. And it was just very exciting for me that I got all these electrodes on the right way. But just like you, like the rest of my life is just a trash pile. Like I have laundry still sitting in the laundry basket from like a whole week that I haven't put away, and all those lovely things.
I'm surprised I don't, although it's funny because like it was a very weird moment. I think just because like I got hyperfixated that I managed to like put away all my laundry. I made the bed, like put on new sheets. So it's like the one time that I make the bed. And then I like, maybe you like redo it the next day. And then after that, it's like, who fucking cares? I'm the only one that sees the bed. But it's like, I never quite finish. Like, then it's like, oh, but these pile of jeans, and then I keep them folded. And then it's like, oh, and then I like also, while I was doing that, I grabbed a bunch of clothes that I'm going to get rid of, and I put them in a pile to put that pile elsewhere. But now it's just sitting in a pile on the floor. And it's like, but I put all my clean clothes away.
There you go. And I mean, I'm sure we can get into it more as we get into the thick of it of the podcast today. But I feel like anyway. that I feel like, especially us who have ADHD, we are queen of the 90% or king of the 90% or royalty of the 90%, where we can get that done 90 up to that 90%. And then that 10%, it's just like, that's when we got the jeans that are just hanging out forever on the floor, the clothes that are supposed to go to the thrift store that is just
Or stuff
there.
you have to put on the hanger.
Or stuff you have to put on the hanger. I'm personally the worst at towels, where I will fold the towels and everything's ready, and then I'll put it on the counter that's in the bathroom by the linen closet, and then they never go in the linen closet.
I have. Case in point, clean the towels, and I folded the towel, and I even managed to move it from my bedroom to the bathroom, but it is sitting on a surface and not with the other towels. I'm like, good enough.
Yeah.
I'm not adult enough to have a linen closet yet. I just have like 2 towels that I rotate between. So it's just towel goes into laundry, towel comes out of laundry.
Well, I wouldn't say it's really a linen closet per se. I would love a linen closet. Would kill for a linen closet. It's more like a everything closet with shelves that just like came with there was a lot of weird choices that the previous homeowners and architect made. So it's just like, I guess is a good spot to put the towels, but it's not really great and accessible. And it's like way unnecessary. It's so deep, unnecessarily deep. Like,
that's what she said.
Are you planning on me crawling in there? That's what she said. When the door happens to be open, my cat's like, this is a great spot. These comfy towels on this shelf. Like, thank you. Fabulous. Don't mind if I do nestle and put my hair all over there so that you're really confused when you go and dry yourself and you're like, why am I covered in cat hair in my mouth? Little fucker.
Yeah. But I feel like this digression is a perfect what's the word I'm looking for? Tableau for today's topic. And for those who are just tuning in, which is very interesting because this is a podcast, not a radio show. But if you are just tuning in, today's episode is on ADHD and adulting.
Look at you getting us on track.
All right. I'm the ADHD buddy.
Yes, you are. First, if you could just talk a little bit about your background as our guest. And
sure.
Yeah.
So I'm Carley. I have I'll talk about schooling first because we're just talking about it. So I'm currently studying to become a psychotherapist. But I have a master's that I did before this that was in neuroscience. I also have bachelor's in neuroscience and psychology. I have a TikTok and Instagram and I think I just added YouTube and a Facebook under the same name. It's all ADHaDult. But lately I don't really focus on ADHD. It's all just general mental health stuff. And I'm working as a research assistant, which makes me feel very sciencey. So that's fun. And I have some cats and I like cats.
We love cats.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're two crazy
You
cat
might hear
people
them
ourselves.
throughout the podcast. They like to scream a lot.
Excellent.
Fizzle always makes an appearance, almost always, because she has my personality. She is a dirty, dirty slut and loves to be touched, loves attention, just likes people and is just like, touch me. Yes, do it, like it.
Which is all the more reason for those who are just listening instead of watching us on YouTube. If you watch us on YouTube, you will most likely at some point get to see Fizzle crawl across one of our laps and make herself home, because that is exactly what she does.
Fizzle's a great name for a cat.
Fizzle is the younger one and Floof is my older cat. Floof and Fizzle.
Oh.
And their names do suit them. I'm very lucky to have very, very friendly cats. They love people. They've never hissed or scratched at people. And I feel like Fizzle could be a therapy cat if she wanted. She's a good cat.
She is.
Anyone that listens, I mean, we've mentioned it so many times that me and Abby both have ADHD. If you can't tell by now, like, you probably haven't been listening to the show. And definitely Pat knows because he has to do the editing.
We're sorry, Pat, and also thank you.
Yeah. So he tolerates us. and puts up with us and keeps us on track.
Mm-hmm.
It was definitely easier for him when we could do it in person with him. So he could kind of be like,
wrap it up. In some ways, he was our ADHD buddy.
Yeah. So Cheers to Adulting, when we started it, we really wanted to give like helpful advice about all sorts of different things of what we're expected to do as adults. And it's like, when in high school was I supposed to learn how to do my taxes? And no one taught me what the difference is between a 401k and an IRA. And some people like where I might excel, someone else might not. Like, how long do you boil this? Or like, what am I supposed to do with laundry? Or how do you clean this? And all of that bullshit, which the thing is that it's so hard in this state. It's so antiquated, the concept of adulting and what's expected of us as an adult. And it's like, if you don't do X, Y, and Z, then you're not a real quote unquote adult, because like your house is supposed to look a certain way, but it's like, it's not the 1950s. Like pretty much the majority of us don't have a spouse at home, like being the home care person who's also like not getting paid to take care of all of these children and clean the house and cook a meal and starch and press the suits and do all of this and still look well put together. But secretly they're like popping some Vicodins and like downing it with the gin martini.
Mommy's little helper and all that fun stuff.
And I feel like that really ties in with like ADHD, because like not only are we, you know, for people, adults with ADHD, not only are we supposed to like do all of these things, we're also supposed to do all of these things with like weights tied around our arms and our head and our legs. And there's still like a stigma around it of like, oh, that's an excuse, or that doesn't exist. And, you know, heaven forbid you like take medication and then it's like, oh, you don't need that. Funny enough, I was in a conversation with a coworker who there's some cultural differences, but I get it because he is same culture as what I grew up with. But he is like from the motherland of Mexico. And I love him. He's like the sweetest, and he makes me think of my uncles, and it makes me homesick. And I was talking to him and talking about how I hadn't taken my medication yet or something. Cause like, I can't remember if it was you that did a TikTok about it or someone about about taking medication, and like they talk about you know, people abusing the medication. It's like, I can't even remember to even take my medication. Okay. Like all the time I'm like, did I take it? And it's usually like after a while that I'm like, why am I all over the place? Why can't I stay? Oh, I haven't taken my medication. Anyway, so I was talking to him how I like taking he was like, oh, you don't need the medication. And I was like, yes, I do. I tried for many years to try and function without it. And lo and behold, I cannot function without it. I can, but I can't. And so many things fall through the cracks, and it just makes my life so much easier to be medicated.
I feel that. So I actually want to throw in, speaking of stigma, first and foremost, especially those of us who are AFAB, assigned female at birth, there is almost this extra weight put on it because a lot of us were not diagnosed when we were kids. I know for me, every single teacher from kindergarten to fourth grade recommended me for evaluation. I did not get evaluated. Ironically, though, my little brother recommended in kindergarten, immediately evaluated, diagnosed, put on
my brother
Ritalin.
Too.
And so, and then on top of it, that whole aspect of, you know, it can show up differently in us, and we're so conditioned to be friendly and, you know, suppress ourselves to, you know, keep the peace, that of course our symptoms are simmering below the surface, and everyone's like, oh, but you're so put together. And it's like, no, it's a dumpster fire under here. I'm putting on airs because that's what I've been conditioned for. And to wrap in the medical part as well. So I'm currently not medicated, but I am seeing my doctor at the end of the month to talk about medication. Primarily, the whole grad school thing has been my final push, because talking about flying by the seat of my pants.
God, college and without medication was fucking torture.
I still don't know how I got through my bachelor's, but I definitely was one of those people where, because there's such a stigma, not only around ADHD, and women have any ADHD, but medication as well, that I'd always been hesitant. And then I had the extra trauma. And I actually wonder how many people have this trauma that they've been trying to deal with themselves, or if I'm just like a really fun special case where, as I mentioned, my little brother was diagnosed, and this is the early 90s when he gets diagnosed. Things like Ritalin were still kind of in their infancy in terms of like how we're going to treat ADHD. And at least in my family, instead of doing the more responsible act of like, working with doctors, figuring out dosages, if it's not working, do we tweak it? Do we go on a different medication, so on and so forth? They kind of, kitty! There's a kitty! Yay!
This is
I'm here for the kitty cameo. But yeah, instead of doing the more responsible thing, my parents just kind of blanket Ritalin, and it did not matter that he was having some adverse reactions to it. And so I grew up in an environment where every evening my brother would get extremely violent, like take hammers to furniture levels of violent. And my mom would play it off, he's just going off his medication. He's just coming down from his medication.
It's like, maybe don't give the kid a hammer when he's coming off his medication.
Yeah. But I then internalized that. I was like, oh my God, Ritalin is what, if you go on ADHD medication, you become a psycho in the evening. Oh my God. And as a result, as I became adult, and even when I got diagnosed, I didn't seek out any medication. I'm like, no, I can figure it out on my own. I'll be fine. Anything is better than becoming a psycho every evening and like traumatizing the people around me. Little did I know that it's like, no, it doesn't have to be this way. There are not only so many advances in medication, and I know I'm kind of towing into your territory quite well, and you can definitely jump off from here, Carley, that there's been so many advances and there's so many different avenues now. And especially if you're working with your doctor on what the right dosage is and what the right medication is, you don't have to live that life. And it has taken so long for me to get over that trauma of, if you're on an ADHD, any type of ADHD medication, you become a holy hell.
Yeah. I've tried I swear every single one. Well, not every single one, not the new cool ones that I've seen coming out, but I've tried all of the classics. And yeah, not so much violent, but I definitely get a crash in the evening. It's more of a sadness, a depression, kind of crash. And that's why I ended up going on Vyvanse. I'm not on it right now. I'm not really on any specifically for ADHD medication, but I found that Vyvanse, the longer acting ones, can help with that evening crash, because they're long acting instead of short acting, where you don't have the such highs, ups and downs. But yeah, I was lucky to avoid that kind of stigmatizing thoughts around medication, but I didn't get diagnosed until I was 20, so I didn't have the choice on whether to go on medication until I was an adult anyway.
Yeah, I wasn't diagnosed until it's funny because it was more like friends suggesting.
Yeah.
And they're like, have you ever thought about that? And I was like, and it's funny because, so many people talk about, or at least in the past, would be like, oh, I'm so ADHD, passively, people unfortunately also are like, oh, I'm so OCD or whatever, without actually having it. And, people would always be started to say you have ADHD or what have you. And then I was like, I think, yeah, maybe I do. Maybe I should talk to the doctor about it. And it's funny because friends who know me, when I would say that they're like, if you not knowing that you have ADHD is crazy. And I think the thing that might have my parents, specifically my mother, definitely would never want me to get tested to anything that would suggest that I was less than perfect, because compared to my older brother, who's closer to me in age, he has lots of learning disabilities. And then my oldest brother from my mom doesn't have any, but he doesn't listen to podcasts. I don't know if I should whatever. He could do a lot more, but doesn't have any roadblocks. So, and I was the one that didn't get in trouble, like, because I was smart about it. And, got really good grades and, the gifted and burnt out talented kid. I auditioned and went to a fine art school. I studied musical theater. So for them, it was just like, this is just her personality because she studies musical theater and that's why she's like this and like all of her blah, blah, blah. But in reality, it's like, yeah, but you don't realize like I'm having to stay up like all night with naps for like an hour or 15 minutes or 10 minutes because I've procrastinated this whole time. And I used to really shame myself for that's like my biggest symptom of my ADHD is my procrastination. And it's like gives me so much anxiety and I put off things just because like starting it just gives me anxiety. And so in high school and especially in college, because I was working full time and I was going to school full time and just like be like, oh, I have to write this 15-page paper, 15 pages. And then it's like, fuck, it's due the next day. And it's not good, but one time someone offered me their Adderall and I took it and lo and behold, I got things done, which is, I do not recommend that for anyone. Please get diagnosed and prescribed your medication before you do.
I had to chuckle though, because that actually is one of the ways that one of my friends actually had the push to finally get diagnosed herself. Is she was at a party, someone offered her some Adderall.
Why would you offer Adderall at a party?
I don't know.
Of all the things you could offer,
that was what offered.
Really
I had Vyvanse offered to me at a party once, and I was like, "Do you want to be awake until like 7 a.m.? Like, why would you take this at like 11 p.m.?"
No, hard
yeah,
pass.
But same deal. Instead of having like some great like upper moment, she was just kind of like, cool, I feel so much more level-headed. Let me like organize my calendar. Like, yeah. Now for me, I didn't get diagnosed until I was 28. And it was only because I was in therapy, and I was in therapy for all these other different reasons. It was just a really bad time in my life. And literally at the end of the first session, I must have been that apparent. My therapist was like, hey, I'm officially referring you for evaluation. I want you to go see such and such person. And by the end of that evaluation, it was so funny too. I don't know how professional this was, but she was like, yeah, you have ADHD. And I was just kind of like, woo, all these years of being told, no, I didn't. And yeah, it was, but then again, I was 28. So it's like, I spent my entire life just kind of muddling along and now, and feeling like I was just faulty because I'm forgetting things and I'm scattered and I'm, easily frustrated and all these things. But no, there's a reason for this. And, that was incredibly validating, but also incredibly frustrating.
It makes me think of my most recent therapist. I finally had got back into therapy and I really wanted to try and get some more help and more skills to help navigate my ADHD because like Adderall can only do so much. And I do love that I have extended release because one, I forget to take medication and because it's just like one and done and it's just like nice and gradual, but it's still like, it helps a little bit, but not completely. So I still have all these symptoms that Adderall is not going to help with. And the fact that I can openly talk about my ADHD and all the things that come with it with my therapist, and for her to validate that or to talk about something, and she's like, well, that's because of your ADHD. And for her to say it and recognize it and like accept it and be like, yes, absolutely. And what things do you want to work on, to help you? And I love her and she's just amazing. And it's great that like I can work on that. And like I'm in a place right now. Well, last 2 sessions, not so much, but for the most part, I'm in an okay place that I can just work on that and, work on navigating my mental health, challenges and not necessarily like too much depression. So thank God.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Honestly, like people don't hype up therapy for ADHD nearly as much as they should, because like I've benefited so much from therapy, and it takes a while because you have to find a therapist that really like understands you and
Yeah.
that you click with. And like I went through a lot of bad therapists before I found the one that I'm with now. But yeah, there are things that medication are never going to help with, or it'll help a little bit, but then you still need to build those skills in therapy. And sometimes medication is what gets you to a place where you can actually benefit from therapy instead of it just going like in one ear and out the other. Yeah, I'm a big fan of therapy now. I used to not be, but I've been converted.
And I love hypnotherapy. And I got so excited when I found out that my hair, because I had talked about the benefits of hypnotherapy for me and my ADHD. The very first time I did hypnotherapy was for procrastination. And this is before I knew that that was because of my ADHD. And my current therapist told me, I do hypnotherapy. And I was like, what? Absolutely love this. So anytime it's just like, you know what, let's just do that. And we can focus on hypnotherapy and work on a certain thing. And yeah, I cannot advocate for hypnotherapy enough, especially because afterwards you feel like you took a nap, unless you're going to sleep, because then it's great. And then you just go to sleep. So some of the things I'd like to talk about is like some outdated, like adult expectations and how stupid they are, and like just removing the shame. So like laundry, whether you're, neurodivergent or not, you need to get rid of the shame of laundry. We all have that laundry chair. Or I saw I hate to reference it all the time, a TikTok video of having located spaces, but it's like kind of it removes the clutter, but having like destination. So it like has a little place, a pile place, but like kind of out of it. So like make the laundry room, if it's going to be really hard to like get it to its final destination, just keep that pile in the laundry room. So then it's like out of sight, but you know where to go to get those things. Or like just
I'm a huge fan of just not buying clothes that wrinkle, because I know they're going to sit in the dryer for at least a day before I take them out of the dryer. So if it's a clothes that like needs to be ironed, I just will not buy it. I don't own anything like that. Well, I do, but I never wear them. They're in
I was going to say, I own clothes that are wrinkle. Am I going to wear them? No.
Absolutely
if I see a shirt that I'm just like, I kind of want to wear that shirt, and I'm like, but it's wrinkled, not gonna do it. I'm gonna throw on something else. Hard pass.
Or I'll like frantically try and like iron out spots of it with my hair straightener like real quick, because that's way less effort than getting out an iron.
I'm a huge fan of Downey's wrinkle release, not sponsored. Spray is great because then you just even spray it on your body and just like kind of stretch it in the places it's supposed to, and it gets rid of the wrinkles.
Works?
Yeah.
Ooh. I'm making mental note on this one.
Oh yeah. And then
Downey, get on this. We need a sponsorship.
Yeah. The other thing, there's like, and then there's another thing you can do, which is like buy like a steamer that heats up in like 2 seconds. I have like, it's like this small, pretty cheap, heats up really quickly. It's like done.
Ooh.
If you're like,
I sometimes will just hang it like over the shower if I'm going to shower.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mine doesn't get steamy enough in there, and I don't shower often enough for that to work.
Fair.
Yeah. And then the other one that's super easy, if you have just enough time, is if you throw the item that you need to get unwrinkled really fast in the dryer with a wet or damp cloth or a paper towel, and just throw it in there for like
Instant
5-10
steaming.
minutes. It'll unwrinkle real quick.
Nice.
I actually blew Courtney's mind recently because she was talking about she will rewash clothes because it'll sit. She's also has ADHD. It'll just like sit for so long. It's just like, then it's like wrinkly. And so she'll just wash it again and then dry it. And I told her, I was like, you can just throw like a damp, like towel, like a hand towel or something in there and then run it. And it'll just unwrinkle everything again.
That's
just
low
like,
in my mind.
yeah, you can just do that. So laundry, I feel like it's basically, it's funny because I'm just like going over lots of episodes that we've gone over, like friendships and, you know, removing the stigma that of so many like things that we have that are expected of us from friendships, like making plans and like reaching out to people and following through and like, you know, making plans and like sticking to it and not canceling, even though you're like, I really don't feel like leaving my bed. And I feel like that's what my brain wants to do. But then you go, even though you don't want to, or then you feel the shame of you canceling, not telling your friend why you don't want to go, and you feel obligated. If you should feel that you should be able to tell your friend why you don't want to go. And if you feel like your friend's not going to understand that, you don't need that friend. I'm just saying. You don't need that friend.
I'm so happy that I finally have found myself in a place where like I have a couple friends where I feel comfortable enough to be like, sorry, brains being poop, can't come out, like don't want to leave, like but there's still people who I know would be receptive of that. Like I know logically that they would be like, oh yeah, no problem, but like I still like just say, oh, I'm sick, or oh, I have food poisoning or something else like that, just because I don't want to like explain it, and I don't want them to be like, oh, like do you need anything, can I help you? And I'm just like, I don't want to deal with all that. I just want to communicate that I'm not coming and leave me alone.
And I always think about how, and I was talking with a friend recently about this, about how it seems like you end up getting these neurodivergent friends where there's this understanding that the best way to nurture the friendship is to just send memes and TikTok videos at each other. Like, oh shoot, this reminded me of you, I'm going to send it to you. And it's like almost this new version of love language, like this curation of just like, hey, this reminded me of you, here you go.
Just like I'm thinking about you, like I know your vibe and this fits it, so here you go. Like
exactly,
that's like me and Courtney right now, and I know she's going through the spicy sads, and I know I'm gonna have to, and she knows I will fucking call a bitch out when I can tell when she starts to kind of go off the grid, and she's like, her cat's like getting really old and just really sad and like other things. So tomorrow I'm gonna have to FaceTime her and call her out on her shit, because you know, I feel like a lot of people feel like especially her, that it's like it's all like trauma stuff that like we feel we can't burden ourselves onto our friends who are supposed to be there to, I hate to even use the word burden, but to like put that load on and to be like, I need help. Please support me. Like, this is what I'm going through, and this really sucks. It's like, that's what friends are for. So you don't have to go through it alone.
That's what friends are for.
And it's good to have like those friends that notice too when you start to withdraw and stuff. And like I'm always like so conflicted between like, do I actually need time alone, or am I like isolating too much and that's making my mental health worse? But I like my friends that I have now, they're so good at like kind of recognizing when I need to get out of the house. And sometimes even if I like say like, oh no, I'm not going to come, they'll just like, their spidey sense will tingle and they'll just show up outside my house. They'll be like, well, we're here. So, and then I'm like, well, if you're here already, like that made it easy. If they just come and scoop me up and say, we're going to get blizzards, like get in the car, I'm like, well, I can't say no to that.
Like DQ blizzards?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. My friends came and got me at like midnight the other day and we're like, yeah, I think you need a blizzard. And I'm like, yeah, let's go.
Open at midnight? Is it open at midnight?
Or maybe it was McDonald's. No, it was McDonald's McFlurries. I don't know. Some kind of
at Flurries, blizzards, you know,
they're the same.
Yeah. Weather related ice cream, you know?
I feel like in New Hampshire, like I went from in Texas where there's anything is open 24 hours, or you can always find something open like after midnight. And then I moved to the rural land of New Hampshire where nothing is open past 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
Nothing is a 24-hour. Like, it was such a culture shock to come here where like my first or second day in New Hampshire from moving from Massachusetts and moving to New Hampshire, I was driving and I was like, did I move back to Texas? Seeing all of the trucks and then like
the pickup trucks
going into a grocery store and there's country music playing. I'm like, thought I left Texas. I thought I left Texas for a reason.
New
And
Hampshire,
seeing truck nuts, I'm like, I thought I left that place.
New Hampshire is the south of the north. For anybody who doesn't know the sociology of New England, New Hampshire is very much the south of the
Our
north.
motto is live free or die, but really it should be live free and die.
That's so funny because I grew up in, like, I'm Canadian, if anyone doesn't know, but I grew up in a small town just outside of the city that I live in now. And the contrast from that small town to the city is like ridiculous. Like, I grew up at a high school where people would drive their tractors to the high school, and like there'd be like tractors and shit at the high school. Yeah. But now I'm in the city and it's just night and day. I like the city a lot better.
I'm like, here it's like a happy meet. It's like not like too rural. Like they're a rural. That's a really hard word. Rural.
Lorville.
Rural. It's rural parts of New Hampshire. But I'm like in a town, but I feel like it could almost be a city.
Yeah.
Like
the town I grew up in is turning into a city. It is great. Every time I go home, I'm like, what? There's another subdivision? Like, what is happening?
Maybe we should jump from this to another aspect that, removing the outdated adult expectations, which is the work-life balance, which we actually touched upon a little bit already. There was this resurgence of this meme that it's probably like 5 years old at this point, but I think it always bears repeating that the whole concept of the 40-hour work week, and yet, your house is clean and laundry's done and this and that, and the kids are well taken care of, was done with the attitude of there's someone at home to do that for you. And these days, like, who has a housewife, and can
you share?
Exactly. Can they come to
Carley
my place?
Okay.
As a card carrying member, I say it's a-okay. But it is like there needs to be that removal, especially along the neurodivergent community, that this attitude of like, no, you can work your job and then you're gonna go home and you're gonna cook yourself this nice meal and you're gonna have this work-life balance. There is no such, like, even for the most not neurodivergent person, there is no such thing in this capitalistic society.
Yeah, like my work schedule and I was like so ecstatic because I went from a 55-minute commute to a 12-minute commute.
Oh, beautiful.
And I went from working, like, in the summertime, I worked 52 to 62 hours a week. Have you ever seen Downton Abbey?
I've heard of it, but
aware of Downton Abbey? You know the concept of it?
Yeah.
So in that show, they have servants because, it's Downton Abbey. It's British people and stuff. And they treat their help better than at the job that I was at. My life was Downton Abbey, but they treated them better than they didn't. Yeah.
And those longtime listeners of this podcast have heard like some roundabout stories about them.
Yeah. Anyway, so I went from that, but on normal schedule there, I would work from 9 to 4, which was like, I'd get home at a reasonable hour. And now I have a 12-minute commute, but now I work from 8 a.m. to 5:30. So I don't get home till like 5:45, 6 o'clock. Then I have to make like dinner. And the problem here is that I love cooking. I love cooking. So for me, my decompression time is cooking, which is why my partner cooks for himself. Because he's like, I don't want to wait 2 hours. It doesn't take 2 hours. But if it's just me, myself, and I eating this meal, then I can take as long as I want. But now 3 nights a week, I cook for a single mother, and she has a 7-year-old and a 1-year-old. So it's like a bunch of different palettes going on.
That's nice.
And I love cooking for them. And it's made me very humble because 7-year-olds, man, they can, you can present a really beautifully cooked, meal that I did a lot of time into. And then she says, that looks disgusting.
Mm-hmm.
You're really rude.
I want PB&J.
Fortunately,
I was
she
the
has.
most picky eater as a child. I feel like this is a common theme in neurodivergent kids too, though.
She is neurodivergent. Her
Yeah.
father is neurodivergent and has been undiagnosed and untreated. His mother asked me if I thought he was ADHD, and I said, without a doubt. And said like X, Y, and Z are symptoms because of his neurodivergence, and especially because he has been so long undiagnosed, untreated, could fix these things. But I've started with her mother, who I've like finally said, I was like, I didn't want to really put it out there. And eventually I was like, do you ever think that she's ADHD? And she was like, yeah, I just don't want to I have a lot going on. So we've like in steps, and she's been very receptive to it. And it's been great. Just thinking about like, for example, for any parents out there who think they might have neurodivergent children. So bath time was a really difficult thing to get through, like since I started with her. And the thing is that once she'd throw such a fit and like cry and stuff about having to take a shower and how it's a waste of time. And then we'd always reiterate, but we can never get you out once we get you in there. And she's like, and finally, like I sat her down and I talked to her and I was like, but what is it about it? Because we can't get you out. And she said, because it wastes so much time, because I lose track of time, because it wastes so much time. So eventually I suggested to her mother, I was like, well, how about we try a timer? And we tell her. And so we tell her we're going to set a timer. And then we tell her, hey, the timer was off. Do you need more time? And it worked for a while. And then it was like, it is so boring. I hate showers because they're so boring. And it made her very, very upset, just physically upset about the shower because it was so boring. So then I thought, okay, I said, how about, she loves music. How about we make a playlist? We pick a certain amount of songs that she likes for a certain amount of time that would be appropriate for shower time.
I to this day, as a 28-year-old adult, only shower with music because otherwise it's too boring. Take some risks and put my phone up and I watch a show or a movie while I shower.
I feel I must take the most
next level,
right?
Well, you also shower all the time.
Well, yeah, I mean, I have very, very thin hair, and I get like I have such an active lifestyle that I have to shower. But I take probably the most utilitarian showers of anybody that I've ever met, where I'm in, out, 5-10 minutes, done. And I think it partly is because of that, because it's like it can be boring otherwise. So I'm like, no, washing the hair, conditioning the hair, washing the body, washing the face. I'm done. I'm out. And
I
have dance parties every shower.
Yeah,
I'm just like I'm singing and dancing.
Yeah. And I do music sometimes too, and I really like it. But it is like been so game changing. Now she loves it, and she knows she has a limited amount of time. She's like singing in there. Because I thought to myself, I said, because I had heard something about a shower playlist for kids, and then I remembered how always, every time me and both of my brothers, not at the same time, we would always we had a boombox in our bathroom. And we'd always be listening to music when we took a shower. So I told her, I was like,
the way to do it.
Yeah, I was like, I enjoyed listening to music when I showered. How will you do that for you? Now she loves it. And it's just so great. And it makes me really happy being able to share my experience and to really give her a better start with like her neurodivergence and give her the skills that I didn't get as a child. Because she's so bright and she's so smart. And I see all the frustrations, and like it's also giving me practice because it's a pretty high chance that I'm going to end up with neurodivergent children.
Yep.
So is there some other things that you really think that you'd like to convey to people as a neurodivergent person, or just like an adult that is just trying to adult or not adult? Like, and
honestly, I don't, the concept of what an adult is so vague. Like I don't know what what an adult.
I don't feel like an adult.
I don't feel like an adult at all, especially with the pandemic. I feel like I'm closer to what my teenage self was than ever because of being locked inside and having like only video games to entertain myself. Like that is just all I did as a teenager. So I definitely
Thank you,
feel
Animal
like
Crossing, for coming in.
Right?
during
Oh
the
my God.
pandemic.
Stardew Valley. It was I played Stardew Valley and it reminds me of the Harvest Moon on the PlayStation 1.
Oh, wow. That's a throwback.
Yep. Big throwback.
I got into that and finally like started playing the Zelda game. I got a lot into baking during the pandemic.
With baking and cooking and stuff, those are like that's your wind down activity. That is my like stressed out adult activity. Like I hate cooking. I don't hate cooking, but it's just there's so many steps and you have to think about like what ingredients you need, and like vegetables go bad if you're not eating them immediately.
Yes.
And like they only sell cilantro in like a giant bundle. Like I just need like a
Means
tiny
you
bit of
need
cilantro.
to use it more. You need to use it more in things.
There's only so much cilantro you can eat.
I mean, I'm Mexican, so challenge accepted. Although I always do. Sorry, go ahead.
I get food box delivery things, the meal delivery things.
I
Those
used
have
to do
saved
that.
my life this past.
I used to
5
do
years.
that a lot. I loved those. I did a lot with Abby, but
Oh,
then I went on this whole journey in the fall of last year because I got to my heaviest weight I had ever been. And I was tired of not fitting in clothes, and I was tired of having to buy new clothes. And I needed to like do a reset and look at my diet again. And I was like, I did a DNA thing, and I was gluten-free in my mid-20s for a few years. And then I integrated it back into my diet. And then after doing this DNA like test, it said that I should probably eat gluten-free. And I was like, I should probably go back to doing it again. And so I like did calorie count, trigger warning. I did a little calorie counting just to like try and realize like how much I should be eating. And then I got to a point and I was like, okay, I don't need to calorie count anymore. It is problematic. Unfortunately, I've never, knock on wood, had an eating disorder. And so then I just like did, and I tried to like not be too intense about it. Like I went to the gym like 3 nights a week, and I did it for like 20 minutes. Like after I'd get there at like, and yes, it was during, time when we didn't have vaccinations, but I wore a mask. And I went at like 8:15, 8:30 at night. So there was like no one there. And I worked out with a mask on. And all I did was like the elliptical for like 20, 25 minutes. And like, just like was better about like my drinking habits and little healthier. And and eventually like after that, and my Adderall reset, although I lost most of it without Adderall. But once I got on my medication, I feel like it really reset my metabolism to what it used to be. And so I've lost since then about 35 pounds. Now now I'm just like, okay, now I gotta like eat a little bit more so that I don't lose.
That's my problem, is like just forgetting to eat, and then I'm ravenously hungry at night, so I eat like a giant meal right before bed, which of course is not great for you. Like I've gained the pandemic 20-30 pounds, I don't know.
Whatever.
But yeah, it's always just like I forget to eat, even like, and at first it was only when I was on meds, but during the pandemic, I think because I didn't have social cues of other people eating around me at lunchtime, I just completely lose track of time. I'm working away on my computer, and then I'm like, oh, it's 5 p.m. and I haven't eaten breakfast yet. Like I should probably have a snack.
Now I force myself to have snacks everywhere.
There you go.
Just always. It's like, I'm just going to, and especially because at first when I had recently like upped my dosage, and I realized that I would get nauseated if I didn't eat. So I'm like, okay, now I need to eat and take it, and just like force myself to do that, especially because I love food, and food is it's a passion for me. It's more than like, you know, a special interest. And because like once you like really get comfortable with it, like I'll start with a recipe for certain things, but then I'm just like, it says like, you know, a clove of garlic. I'm like, you mean like 10 cloves or handful of cilantro? So like 2 handfuls. I'm gonna make it what it is. I just need to know what's a safe temperature for meats because I never remember. Or like what temperature do I cook this at and like how long? That's the only thing I never memorize because I ain't got time for that. Anyway, thank you so much for coming on. You were so lovely. And you, as I found you from listening to Katiosaurus, Katie and Goot, right? They're
the Infinite Quest
for and that just TikTok is crazy. It is, and as weird as it is, especially for me being like the much older crowd of TikTok, having people like you and her and other people have really helped me learn more about my ADHD. So I really want to thank you because it's, you know, been
honestly, like I learned just as much. Like I have degrees in neuroscience and psychology, but I've still learned so much from TikTok because there's something just so valuable about hearing like actual lived experience of like what people go through day to day. Like they don't give you enough of that in school when you're learning about mental health. I think that's just so valuable. So yeah, absolutely. I've learned probably just as much, if not more, as you have.
And that's actually a good point, like especially for those of us who are listening, and like we've referenced TikTok multiple times at this point, but TikTok has a wonderful section, you know, it's known as ADHD TikTok. And for those who are looking for those resources, there are so many amazing, like both big names and smaller names, whether it is, hey, I am a leading therapist in this field, or, hey, I am just someone with ADHD and I'm telling you my experiences. If you are somebody who is neurodivergent in that way, I cannot recommend it enough. It really is as simple as downloading the app, and we're not sponsored by TikTok by any way, shape, or form.
There's lots of issues with it.
Oh yeah, I'm pretty sure all three of us could.
I'm Canadian. I don't even have the creator fund. TikTok gives me nothing.
I don't do enough TikToks to ever get in the creator fund.
And as somebody who's on the creator fund, I can tell you right now, it literally, you get paid bupkis. Like something go crazy viral, and TikTok will be like, okay, here's like $10.
Yeah.
But seriously, you download the app, and all you have to do is like search like hashtag ADHD. You're gonna find some amazing creators on there. We've mentioned Katiosaurus multiple times. Following
Carl's
her
here is ADHaDult.
Yeah. On a much lesser scale, because I really talk more about trauma recovery and just random shit, anything else, but I am not Jennifer Garner on TikTok.
And I will post maybe once a month. My tag is I am an HR nightmare.
One thing I will say though, for people who want to get into TikTok or just like social media mental health stuff in general, is you have to be really intentional with telling the algorithm what you want to see. So it's really easy to be like drawn down this like tunnel, this tube of like, if you're feeling really sad and like and bad and like, you know, seeing other people being really sad and upset like relates to you, it's really easy to just get sucked down that, and then all you see is like negative sad content. So you have to be super intentional with like, no, I want to see like mental health professionals, and I want to see people giving tips, or like I want lived experience. Like you have to just really tell the app what you want, because it will take you somewhere if you don't tell it.
It helps for me that I pretty much never am on the For You page ever. I started with a few people, and then when I see them stitch something, then I look at that person, and then so on and so forth. And that's how I find the people.
It's like a good way to do it.
I go through a huge thing with, I'm really obsessed with dance TikTok. And so I'll find like the choreography of that person, and then how that person and like that person. And it's a whole other. So then I like stay in the lanes that I want of like dance TikTok, ADHD TikTok, like science TikTok, and, you know, all the things that make me really happy.
That's the way to do it. That's a good way to do
Exactly.
social media.
I
Use it as a
think-
tool. Don't let it use you.
Yeah,
Amen
exactly.
to that.
And I would love to. I was thinking in the car when I was zoning out and not listening to my audiobook, that we should start a TikTok for Cheers to Adulting and start giving like
Ooh.
short little tips.
I am down with this.
So soon to be. So you can follow us on our Facebook, Cheers to Adulting. Our Instagram is Cheers to Adulting Podcast. Our email is cheers to adulting at gmail.com. Our Twitter that we never ever use
Never.
is cheers,
Cheers
number two
adulting.
adulting. And you can watch us on YouTube.
Yeah.
See me, and literally I'm in my pajamas, except with a bra. Like, you're fucking welcome. Although I'm on my period right now, so it probably feels better to wear a bra right now. Which is why, well, it's not why, but then after the fact, maybe it's subconsciously, it's very good that we're drinking a gin drink because gin helps with menstrual cramps.
And if you people have been listening from the very beginning, this was like episode 1 or 2. I think maybe episode 2, where we talked about gin's actually really good for menstrual cramps.
It's the juniper berries that help with menstrual cramps.
There we go.
And it really does. I've only had one. The weirdest, for some reason, I don't know if TMI, but this podcast is TMI. This period, I had weird, like, internal cramps. Not like a cramp, but like literally like the vaginal
You just feel
wall
the
cramp.
spasming?
I was like, what the fuck? I don't know. Maybe it doesn't like my new menstrual cup. Whatever. Tomato. So
on that note, everybody.
yeah, welcome for that overshare. But that's me. That's should be my handle. I overshare. So thank you for coming on the podcast so much.
Thank you.
You're just
Thank you for having
wonderful
me.
and delightful, and I love your energy and your brain. Good brain.
Yes.
We need therapists like you in the world.
Oh, shucks. Thank you so much.
So on that, we cheers.
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 Cheers to
To
adulting.
adulting.
To adulting.
Oh, yeah, that's the stuff.
Cheers to adulting.